Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. I am your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a fellow YPOer from Australia, an absolutely incredible entrepreneur, social entrepreneur, and a businessman, Mr. Thomas Ng to our show. Thomas, welcome to the show.
Hi. Hello, Ashutosh. Glad to be here.
Thank you. Thomas is the founder and CEO of Genashtim Innovative Learning, an organization that has been recognized and felicitated globally. He's a partner with Raise SG, the Singapore Center for Social Enterprise. He spent 25 years in the corporate world before he decided to leave his words, decadent lifestyle and do something for the people. And as I just mentioned, he's a fellow YPO member. So Thomas, let's talk about Genashtim. I hope I have the pronunciation right. Tell me about this venture.
Okay, so Genashtim was started with almost now 13 years ago with a very simple purpose, and in those days, there was I never heard of a social enterprise or working on the cloud or digitalization and all that. It was just started with a very simple purpose. The simple purpose was to try to put disabled people to employment. And these are disabled people from the less developed economies, not from the well-developed economies, right? So because they are the less developed economies, so we had limitations, right? Because commuting is very hard for them. So we started actually in the Philippines. It was very hard. So we then thought about it and said, look, even we bring them to the office, what do they do most of the time? They'll be on the phone, they will be on the computer and all that, right? And so, well, why don't we then let them work from home, So and then the second thing was that, okay, so these people are disabled, they cannot run around. So what can we do, So we thought, in those very, very early days, probably about 6 years too early, we looked into e-learning and we looked into, online support, digitalization of things and all that. So it was born out of limitations, right? We had limitations. So we said, this is the stuff that we want to do, that we can do considering our limitations.
Right.
So some people have said to me, of course, 12 years later, we are doing the right thing, right? We are a remote work company.
Correct.
And we are in e-learning and digitalization. So people say, oh, how come you're so visionary? But actually, I'm sorry, I can't take any credit for being a visionary. All these things came about because of our limitations.
Wow. And, imagine, thinking of work from home 12 years ago, I would say that is quite visionary, but if you insist, I'll say, okay. But work from home has just seriously been discovered only now. But continuing with the conversation, one, I understand that you wanted to help people, but what was the motivation to build an organization to provide learning support to people which included disabilities, refugees, LGBTQ communities, and seniors?
Okay. So what happened was that, I told you that that I was a corporate man for 25 years, and the last 15 years of that, I was an expat. So in those days, an Asian expat is quite rare, And so living the good life and all that. And I just found one day, I was only 47 years old. I just found that it was such a toxic environment in the corporate world. And I didn't feel a sense of I'm achieving really anything. So I decided I'm going to take some time off. The family had actually moved to Melbourne already at that time. I thought I'll maybe take a few years off, spend time with the family, and then think about what I want to do next, right? But I didn't know that in those days, work for large companies in very senior positions, there's such a thing as a garden leave clause in the contract.
Right.
So I got stuck. I didn't even know what it meant, And so I got stuck. I tried to tell my employer, I said, look, I'm prepared to sign any document that I won't join any competitor. I won't even get a job for the next year. But no, they said, you stay put. We're paying you for one more year. You're on call, So during the 1 year, I had no choice because I've always been invited by fellow YPO members, business council members, and big chambers of commerce members to join their boards of NGOs, So I was intrigued by this one particular NGO. It was a computer school for the blind. So I said, okay, that's interesting. How does a blind person use the computer? And when they did a presentation to me, I was totally kind of mesmerized and I even had a competition with a blind guy who did the presentation. He was faster looking for things on the internet than I was,
Okay.
And so I said, but then what are you doing? You have trained 500 blind people to use a computer. So what are they doing? So most of them actually went back to the province and did go back to basket weaving, massaging, and playing music, So I said, why can't I put them into employment? So I took it upon myself to bring them to all my YPO friends, Chambers of Commerce friends, and all that. Everybody's very impressed when I showed them what they can do, And then, but getting them actually employed was really not so easy. There's so many, issues, and after 2.5 years, my result was 0. So I thought, screw all of you. Sorry, pardon my French. I said, I think they can work, so I'm going to set up a company and put them to work. And then only we decided what the heck are we going to do,
Correct.
And that's when we thought through and said, okay, they have to work from home, so we do e-learning and we do digital work and we do online support. So that's how the whole thing came about.
Wow. And I was going to ask you about your challenges. You have mentioned one of them was to get them employed, but what have been some of your other challenges as you've built this?
Well, I suppose everything was a challenge. I mean, you're thinking about doing a startup from scratch. You're talking about trying to promote e-learning during a time when, people never heard of it. And you try to hide the fact that everybody work from home. We don't have an office. Can you imagine in those days somebody giving you a business when you don't have an office?
Correct.
So I've been through all those struggles. Of course, also dealing with the people. The thing about hiring people with disabilities at that time, and even today we're hiring refugees, most of the time, in fact, for the people that we hire, I mean, probably 90% of them, this is their first and only job. Nobody has employed them. Many of them don't have a proper education. So we had to train them from scratch. So, and then in the early days, it's so funny because we had a situation in the company where the blind would gang up against the hearing impaired who gang up against the ones in wheelchair. And they started to have fights, And I remembered about 2-3 years into the venture, I told them, I said, it's very simple, you guys. I don't need this. If you want to continue fighting, I'm going to turn off my computer. I'm not going to turn it on again.
Wow.
And then you guys do whatever you want. I said, I don't need this. I mean, and so I think that was a kind of a turning point when everybody started to realize that, this is their company.
Correct.
This is not my company, So I think that changed things. Well, I like I said, I mean, it was really a struggle. We lost money for 6 years straight. 7th year, we started to break even. And for the next 3 or 4 years, we were mildly profitable, but I was still not drawing a salary. So, but in the last 2 years, we are good. Let's put it this way.
Very good. Fantastic.
And Ashutosh, the funny thing is that our big spike in growth and success came because of COVID-19.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, you must have worked with so many different people. Share with me some of the amazing successes you have had with some individuals who've really turned out to be amazing.
Okay, so I will talk about a few people. Number one is my first PWD hire was actually Ryan. Ryan is from the Philippines. He was born with, he had polio at an early age. So he was in a wheelchair from the age of 2. Well, actually, he never actually was able to walk, right? And he has partial use of one hand and he's blind in one eye.
Oh, okay.
So when I hired him, he was living in the slums, and he bought an old dot matrix printer. He got a whole PC held together by Elastoplast, and he was leeching internet from his neighbor or something like that. And he ran a small business to do printing for the local stores, because they need to print invoices, right?
Right.
So that was his thing, right? And in fact, during his business, many people cheated him of money too, didn't pay him and all that. So when I hired him, that was his background. He was already in his 30s, Today, he is running our production department. Production department has about 28 people.
Okay.
We have got creative department, programming, web development, e-learning design, instructional designers and all that. He's doing jobs for the Singapore government. water utility board. He did jobs for Microsoft. You know, I mean that is really a success story, right?
Absolutely.
Today he's really, a success story. He lives in a house. He has a car. You know, his wife, who has one arm, does the driving for him. And he's breeding pedigree dogs. Amazing. So that is his life today. I think his cell phone is better than mine.
Okay. Fantastic.
You know. Fantastic. And tell you another one is Willie Villano, also Filipino, blind. He turned blind at the age of 18. He was teaching in a school, for a special needs school. Actually, it's his wife's school. And so he started, because he speaks English very well, he started by English coaching for us. And he went through many, many different departments in the company. He's also now 11 years in the company. Today, he manages 2 departments, our product department for eCornell. So he's the overall product manager. And he also manages a client services department, and also more than 20 people under him. Incredible. Across the world. The people are all over the world. Wow. The third one I'd like to mention is my executive assistant. Her name is Nadia. Nadia is based in Malaysia. She's cerebral palsy. She is below her neck. She can only move the tip of one finger of her right hand. Wow. She cannot move the whole finger, just the tip. Wow. And with that, she works. Incredible. Yeah. So these are people who will be so inspiring, I think. Absolutely. These are really inspiring stories. Yeah. Oh, I got one more. Sorry. I have one more girl, Therese. Yeah. She's in Cebu, Philippines. She's a client support for eCornell. So she look after our people from different countries who apply to study for the eCornell program. She's paralyzed from the neck down. So she operates the computer purely by voice. Okay. And she cannot breathe on her own. She's on the ventilator 24/7. Amazing. Wow. Yeah. Look at how you've really given them absolutely amazing new lives. But, Thomas, when I was reading about you, I also was fascinated to read that you are leveraging technology to connect marginalized communities. How are you doing this? So you think about it, right? Today we have 140 people working from home across almost 20 countries, in 6 continents. They're serving clients in more than 10 countries, mostly multinational companies and government departments. We have no office anywhere. 60% of our people are people with disabilities, 20% are refugees, 10% are either seniors, LGBTQ, other marginalized groups. We have girls working for us who are in Afghanistan. So because of technology, they can actually work from where they are, and then when, in spite of their limitations and their constraints, and deliver their services to multinational clients and government departments around the world. So wouldn't that be leveraging technology, internet, to connect them to the global economy? I agree. As you work across multiple countries and multiple continents, how are you handling the whole aspect of different cultures within such a diverse organization? So that's actually the most challenging thing, right? So what we did is we actually developed what we call the Genashtim culture. So I tried to tell everybody, look, we have full respect for your culture, for your background, and whatever it is, race, religion, everything. And we are really a diverse group of people. We have people from really multiple colors and and religions and all that, right? But we said, when you join this company, you leave it all behind and you adopt the company culture. So that's actually something we try to instill in everybody. And it takes a bit of effort. But if everybody recognizes just that we understand each other and we don't, otherwise everybody will have to keep thinking about now. We have people in, can I run through the countries we have people in? There are China, Philippines, Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia, Vietnam, Macedonia, Tunisia, Afghanistan, Portugal, Ghana, South Africa, Jamaica, Mexico, Venezuela, Colombia, Canada. Wow. So how do we deal with the different cultures? Correct. I agree. And therefore, you're probably evolving your own Genashtim culture. And yes. And we have a lot of funny things in our culture, which maybe is weird to a lot of people. Fascinating. So one last question about Genashtim before I move to the next segment.
you also are working across multiple age groups, because you said you've got the seniors are also at one end,
Yeah.
and differently able people. How are the younger, the millennials and the Gen Zs of your organization adapting? How is it, to manage them, and how are they different?
So, I was 50 years old already, just about 50 when started Genashtim, right? And basically, we are a digital play, right? And we're a technology company, right? And so, how does a 50-year-old person, in those days, do this, right? So actually, Genashtim was started by a bunch of millennials. So at that time, my daughter has just graduated, and she hadn't decided what she wanted to do. So I said, "Then you come and work for me." She was 21 years old.
Okay.
And then I had in the office in the company at that time, a few girls. I think one was 23, one was 24, one was 26, So they are the ones who started this company. And I remember during one of the meetings, it was totally amazing to me because, I come from the old school kind of a management style, right? So yeah, in a meeting, and we're trying to solve a problem, with, the business that we just started. And everybody brought their laptops, so we were clacking away at their keyboards. And every time we came out a problem, then they said, "Oh, I just found the solution," and then pull the overhead projector cable, plug it in, and say, "Oh, we found this." And then, I just chatted with somebody from Holland, and there's this solution. Every time we came out a problem, they will be, searching the world and then come up with a solution. And you walk away from the meeting and you say, in the old days, I will be the one speaking at a meeting, telling them these are all the problems. And then they go away and they take 1 week, they come back with some proposals,
Right.
Now we solve the problem on the spot. So that's how the company was started. And today, everything we do is around using technology, using interaction, collaboration. And the old people that we have, including myself, I'm 64, right? We'll have to really adapt, right? And we have found people who can, we have somebody who joined us
Correct.
at the age of 70, who did very well. In fact, this week we have a new finance director starting, is also 70 years old. So
amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. What an amazing journey you had so far. But moving on, Thomas, now let's talk about RAISE SG, the Singapore Center for Social Enterprise. Tell me about the objectives of this initiative.
So, RAISE Singapore is the Social Enterprise Authority of Singapore. So, in Singapore, the study was conducted, I think, funded by Hong Kong Bank. That there are 6,000 social enterprises in Singapore. So they are these self-proclaimed social enterprises. But in RAISE, the number of companies approved under RAISE is less than 400. So you have to apply and you have to, comply and be interviewed and comply with all the requirements. So in July last year, RAISE actually approached us and asked us whether we would outsource this work for them or not. So since then we have been the ones. So if you apply to be a social enterprise in Singapore, we interview you and we write the report recommendation to the management.
Okay.
Now the thing is, why would RAISE come to us, right? So because we have been a B Corp certified company since 2015, we also made it to the top ranks among B Corps. They call it best for the world among B Corps every year since we got certified. And then because of this, in 2018, Singapore Business Federation asked us to run workshops for them to convince their SME companies to incorporate CSR into their business. So we've been running this now. I think this is the 3rd year or 4th year already, even. And so that gives us a credibility. And so when RAISE Singapore saw us, and in fact, they met me when I made a presentation at the Magic Conference in Malaysia, and they said, "Come to our office," and they said, "Can you do this for us?" Right? So we've been doing that, and the fact that we are doing that, AREBA, the ASEAN Responsible and Inclusive Business Alliance, approached us to help them set the same thing up for the members. To review their members and to categorize them and all that. So we have been doing this since the beginning of this year, and because of this, a few months ago, we got a contract with B Lab Global. And today we have 26 verification analysts employed by us, outsourcing the verification work for people who want to apply to be B Corp around the world. So we have people all over the world. So now we're actually doing things on a global platform for sustainability.
Quite amazing. Wow. So I'm now going to move to the last segment of our conversation, Thomas. And this is for a lot of the young people who love to get to know my guest a little better.
Mm-hmm.
So my first question to you is that, you said that senior corporate executive and then decided to leave your decadent lifestyle and formed Genashtim. What would you say are 3 key milestones or pivot points in your life or your career?
Okay. I suppose the first one is that, I came from a lower middle class family in Penang. My father was a school teacher, my mother was a homemaker. So, we're not really the privileged, from the privileged society. So I managed to get admitted to a university in New Zealand, the University of Auckland, and I managed to get my uncle to guarantee me to be there. And my father just turned 50, could take out 1/3 of his EPF to buy me a one-way ticket.
Okay.
And so I worked my life through, worked through university to support myself. And so I thought that was the biggest break I had, because there was no other way I would have been able to, to actually get a proper, education in that sense, that was number one. So I actually managed to get to overseas to get the university degree with no money. Okay. Number two, I think I have to say, is my wife. It's been 36 years of marriage, and I just still feel is a very, we feel very newlyweds. Even with this lockdown for almost 2 years, we didn't drive each other nuts. Because prior to that, I was traveling about 70% of the time, So, and the other thing about my wife is that she let me do this. How many wives would let you do this? When I told her I was going to do this at Genashtim, and I said to her, I said, look, I promise you one thing, I wouldn't sell the house. I wouldn't mortgage the house. I would just use up our entire life savings, which I did, by the way. And you know what she said to me at that time? She turned around and said, you know what? We could have a smaller house.
Amazing.
So that's the Jen in Genashtim. Her name is Genevieve.
Okay.
So that was actually something, without her behind me, I don't think, first of all, I even have a good corporate career. I wouldn't have, started Genashtim, and I wouldn't have held out for so long, because, we were bootstrapping for so many years, right? Of course, the third thing is really starting this company. This is something which is totally crazy, almost insane, and probably irresponsible.
But look at what you've, turned it around into. Incredible.
Yeah, but you touch and go. There were several times which I almost thought, that's it, we are done.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So I have time for 2 more questions, and I'm going to ask you, the question will be, what are the core values you believe in now?
Okay, so for me, I always like to say that, or like to think that I'm a very simple person, simple-minded. And so I think for me, sincerity, authenticity, and integrity are very important to me.
Okay.
And, people I deal with. And also the other thing that's really quite important for me is substance over form, because in my corporate life, in my business life, even in my social entrepreneur life, you see so much being done on show, when in reality, there's totally different.
True.
I think substance over form for me is very, very significant.
Fascinating. And my last question to you, Thomas, and this is a question on failure. I've often said that parents in South Asia or Southeast Asia or East Asia don't teach children it's okay to fail. We're always taught first in class, head of the line, etc., etc. And yet we make mistakes, we fail, and we learn. My question to you is, what have been some of your learnings from some of your mistakes?
So, one of the things, one of the culture of our company is this concept of making good decisions rather than making right decisions. So it's okay to make wrong decisions as long as it's a good decision. Good decision means that you make the decision with the proper consideration and input and research, right? And the right decision could be just punting, so I don't want anybody punting to make the right decision, right?
Okay.
So because of that, I tell everybody it's okay to make mistake as long as you can justify why you make the decision. So because of they keep telling everybody I make mistakes all the time, and I mentioned early on through the life of Genashtim over 12 years. We have, I would say we have actually failed many times, And but what I found is that the following, if I can tell the younger people, is that setbacks, you look at setbacks and think about setbacks happening for a reason. And most of the time I find that when I have setbacks, it gives me the opportunity to refocus and to think outside the box and how can I get around this, right? And I think that builds your capability, and your resourcefulness. So I think we should look at failure as, everybody says that as a learning moment, right? Yeah.
Amazing. Thomas, thank you so much. I can just say one word, which is wow.
Thank you so much.
I have honestly seldom been inspired so much after a conversation as I have after speaking to you. Thank you for taking me through this incredible journey of Genashtim. Thank you for talking to me about how you just hung in there for so many years. And I'm sure this is just the beginning of some amazing success ahead. Thank you again.
I hope so. Thank you so much, Ashutosh. And thank you for inviting me and speaking to me.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.